Vigil, Ante, and the Vigilante Antics by BelleAmant. Read by Oakshadow 5. Chapter 56. Old Endings, New Beginnings. Let's make this right. Now Master Tsukauchi walks into his office, tired and hoping that he'll be able to finish his coffee before anything goes awry, with his mental plan breaking apart as it usually does. He no longer begs the higher beings for a 10-minute reprieve, knowing that it was never meant to be. Truly a shame, but what can he do? But the moment he enters the room, he knows that his prayers go unanswered, because sitting on the desk is a lone notebook, one that now Masa knows was not there when he left the night before. A part of him wishes to dismiss it as a colleague's notes, but he can't, because none of his coworkers leave entire notebooks on his desk. No, it's usually scribbled thoughts on sticky notes or printed off sheets of paper, with little to no in between. Yet, there is a notebook on his desk. A well-used one, if the obvious wear to the cover is any indication. Which means someone left it there. Someone who does not work here. Now Master slips on a pair of gloves, because he is mindful, and a part of him always screams, "This might be evidence," whenever he comes across odd objects that he does not understand. Which isn't as infrequently as he'd like if he's being honest. He sits down at his desk, peers at the blank cover. He opens the notebook. It isn't quite what he expected. Scratch that. It is nothing like no Masa expected. He assumed the notebook would have something vile, a hostile message meant to deter him. He has been working on a serial killer's case recently. Perhaps they had found out. Something like that. Something similar. Something cruel and threatening. The notebook holds information. It's categorized, separated by little indentations on the pages, dog-eared corners for easy maneuvering. It's like some goddamn cheat sheet for his life, if now Masa had to make a description for it. Within its pages are answers to questions now Masa has never even asked. Analyses on villains, hideout locations, and hand-drawn painstakingly detailed maps of said locations. Snippets of overhead plans, and more. There are blueprints of weapons and notes that point out their weak spots, addresses of where villain suppliers lurk, and even secret identities of villains who had hidden behind masks and personas. As now Masa flips through the scribbled out notes, he wonders who dropped them off. And then, he reaches the last page. Detective, we'd like to start with an apology. Since our capture, we haven't been entirely honest. In fact, our capture itself wasn't honest either. We don't want to lie or make light of our actions. We were hired to be informants. A man who went by the title of Sensei offered us a deal. Information on UA and its members for our mother. You might not know our tale's final details, so let us tell them to you. One day, a little boy went home to his apartment, only to find it up in flames. His mother, Inko Midoriya, was long gone, stolen away from a life she was not meant to leave behind so soon. Her son was heartbroken, homeless, and lost. Without a father to want him, he was sent to the local orphanage. Not long after, a second boy came. He was abandoned by his parents, unwanted due to his villainous quirk. The boys became friends, and realized that they had a common goal. They wanted to protect those who could not protect themselves. They wanted to protect those like them. They began to train. They were impatient, too eager to help to wait for hero licenses or laws to control them. They became vigilantes, began their journey. But they couldn't become vigilantes on hope alone. They needed weapons, they needed money to take care of each other. They wanted to get out of the orphanage, make a home for themselves, too. They found a local beach, the Goba, once beautiful, but by then already a place for illegal trash dumping. A perfect base for two young kids who wanted to change the world. They began to create, and they flourished among the piles of garbage. Life was going well, the two were proud and making something of themselves, proving their worth. A villain found them, and they made a mistake. They sold to the villain. Again, they needed money. They needed a way to get better materials, to help more people, to make up for their past mistakes. So they kept selling, and the money came in, but so did the guilt. They worked harder to be better for everyone else, to make up for the wrongdoings. Then Sensei came in, and he offered them something that life could not. A mother. Not a new one, no. Sensei said that he had a quirk that could bring one's soul back to its body. And if a body was not there, a created body could work as a vessel. Sensei told us to get caught. He sent us in as his spies, reporting to him and taking whatever scraps of information we let out and used it against us. We worked to complete the body, to finish so we could be done with the deal, but it was too much information, and it took us far too long to realize that this is wrong, that this is doing more harm than it could ever do good. But we have to try, because we could have remained quiet, we could have slipped away and kept our mouths shut, but that's wrong too. We can't hide from our mistakes, not when we realized how many we've made. It's not much, it's definitely not enough, not to make up for the secrets we spilled, that we've caused our friends and family, but it's something. It's hopefully a beginning. We're sorry, but we hope that this notebook helps us start a real, proper redemption. Sincerely, Izuku and Hitoshi. And it does. It truly does. Now Master never does finish his coffee. When Shota hears the phrase, "we need to tell you something," from his kids, he's not sure what to expect. Especially not when Detective Tsukauchi is saying that the information is crucial to hear. He was stepping out of the room to take a call. But it isn't this. It was never this. We lied a lot. He did awful things, even after you guys took us in. Especially after you took us in. Izuku starts, eyes already tearing up, yet posture resolute. He looks as if he is accepting defeat, like a soldier about to walk into the gallows, or perhaps a hero about to fight a villain that they could not win. But it seems that this time, Izuku's own villain was himself. Or, at least, one of his villains was himself. We were informants for a villain. Hitoshi forces out, his own eyes also shining. He promised us everything, and we thought it was the only way. We tried to be vague, to make sure we didn't give too much, but anything we gave seemed like too much even then. They had talked about a traitor running among US halls, all the way back in the beginning of the year, right after the attack on the USJ. To think that the traitors, were his own sons? It hurt. He started with the littlest things that didn't really make sense. Izuku continues, still not looking at Shota or Hisashi. He wanted a map of the school. I think that's how they got the plans for USJ. They asked for correct details, asked when internships were going on, stuff like that. Why are you telling us this now? Shota asks, because there has to be a reason. He's the one who attacked me. Hitoshi admits, and Shota's blood runs cold. Hitoshi doesn't stop though. He got mad, Izuku explains, and Shota watches as a tear drops from his son's face. It was my fault. He saved Kota. Hitoshi hisses, hands clenched into fists. He saved Kota from Muscular, and then we stopped the League from taking Monoma and Tokoyami. And with all of our other mistakes, since they thought we needed to learn a lesson. Shota remembers that night, remembers it all too well. Remembers the call from the hospital, saying that his kids were hurt. Remembers how Hitoshi was unconscious, comatose, and Izuku seemed 2 seconds away from collapsing, from breaking. All because they saved someone else. So you finally realized that you would get hurt? Hisashi gets out, and Izuku chokes on a forced laugh. No, Izuku says, his tone bordering on what Shota can only describe as hysterical. Because I still went back to him. I thought he'd save Toshi, just like he'd save her. Who was her? He needed me, surely, and he knew I'd stick around so long as my family was safe. Then what changed? Shota asks, and Izuku finally looks up. Tears are pouring down his face, and he's got a broken smile that shakes as he answers. Hitoshi woke up, and he had me realize that we didn't need Sensei to get a family. A deep breath, and then, we already had one, with you two. The words hit Shota, striking him right in the heart. To think that Izuku and Hitoshi are hiding their secrets because of him? Because of himself and Hisashi? That the two of them were able to convince the boys to give themselves up, turn themselves in, just because they considered the men their family? It's touching, even though the betrayal of their actions stings just as deeply. But now he knows why. Their boss, this sensei guy, had offered them a family. But why would they need the man's help to get a family?
Why did you need him to reach your goal?
Shota asks. Because he has to know. He has to understand. And luckily for him, Hitoshi is able to answer.
He said he had a quirk, one that could bring people back from the dead.
With the way that Hitoshi rubs Izuku's back, it's clear just who they were trying to bring back. He just wanted a family. Izuku gets out, sounding so young that Shota is struck with the painful reminder, once more, that the boys have risked themselves over and over since they were 10. Perhaps even earlier. Perhaps this dangerous game of theirs is all that they've ever known, and all they assumed they ever would. Suddenly, Shota finds it harder to fault them. While the hurt still lingers, he knows that this is something that can be mended.
You know that an apology and the information given won't fix everything,
Shota says, and the boys nod. We know, Izuku whispers. We understand we're being expelled, and if you don't want us anymore. Why would we expel you? Hisashi asks, focusing on the first half. If you're truly going to redeem yourselves this time, it only makes sense to keep you two in UA. Izuku and Hitoshi clearly notice how Hisashi doesn't say anything about the second half, but they seem to be relieved, at least somewhat, nonetheless.
Really?
Hitoshi asks, just as Izuku lets out a soft, thank you.
You're going to have restrictions.
Shota cuts in, and the boys nod again.
We tried to give you two freedom, but we should have looked into what you two were doing. This is partially on us. We should have kept a better eye on you boys. But now we can only look ahead.
And really, they should have. They shouldn't have been so trusting. Shouldn't have assumed that the boys would show their full hand to people they barely knew, to people that had tried to capture them for years. It's why Shota can't be too surprised that the boys kept their secrets guarded, and is partially just glad that they finally felt safe enough to reveal everything. A knock on the door is startling, and Shota feels like he's back in the past when Nezu walks in. In order to stay at UA, you two have to stay on campus unless with a guardian, a teacher, or a peer, and that cannot be one of you. You will check in with Aizawa or Yamada if you're gone for more than an hour, every hour. Your locations stay on your phones, and your phones stay on you. You will be monitored more closely by the school. You will likely be pulled into meetings for upcoming raids on the basis you gave us information about, but I doubt that will feel like a punishment. Is that understood? Nezu asks, beady eyes locked on the boys before him in a silent staring contest. The boys both bow their heads, surrendering. Of course, Izuku agrees, without any hesitation, any fight. It is Hitoshi who speaks up, asking the question that's likely running through both their heads.
We're staying on campus permanently?
Hitoshi asks, and Shota sighs.
After the summer camp's disastrous end.
We didn't tell them about that. Izuku cuts in, voice pleading, and Shota can't help it. He snorts.
I know. We didn't give anyone the location. Hell, I didn't even have the location.
Right, Izuku says, and Shota continues.
UA has decided to switch to an on-campus dorming system. It's required of all UA students and staff members.
Oh, the boys say in sync, and Shota nods.
We'll be moving into the dorms shortly, seeing as summer is almost at its end. Do you have any questions?
Shota asks, and Izuku looks fearful as he nods. Do you choose to want us? Izuku asks, and Shota's heart twists at the sight. With a sigh, he stands up, moving onto his right in front of the boys before crouching before them, putting them all at eye level.
You too have made your mistakes, but you're fixing them,
Shota says.
And I'm not going to abandon you for trying to do what's right. You're my problem children still, understood?
And they seem to, if the way they both lunge at him is any indication. Shota grunts from the sudden impact, but lets his arms wrap around the boys. His boys, without comment. Hisashi joins him quickly, and if Shota feels tears hitting his clothing, he won't say a word. And he also won't say anything about the muffled, "Thank you, Dad," that he just barely hears. But he'll stand here, and he'll do what he can to make sure his kids stay on the right track. Because these two boys will be heroes, and Shooter looks forward to the day they can say that with a smile. For now, though, he just holds his family, and that's enough for them.
Are you ready?
Hitoshi asks, and Izuku shrugs helplessly. Am I ever? He jokes, but it falls flat. Hitoshi just gives him a look, one filled with understanding and pain, but also resolve and acceptance. Izuku doesn't need a mirror to know that he has the same look in his eyes. His brother is enough of a reflection for him. The two exit the room together, heading to the living room where Aizawa and Yamada are waiting for them.
Come on, proper children,
Aizawa mutters, and they leave the house. 40 minutes later, the family of four are at a cemetery. Izuku lets Yamada lead the way, moving past gravestones with a silent somberness that the voice hero usually doesn't hold within him. When they reach the correct spot, Yamada turns to Izuku, looking down at him with a thoughtful frown. Do you want us with you, or? Yamada asks, and Izuku takes a deep breath. No, Izuku says at last. Something I need to do without you, with Toshi. They get it, luckily, and the two heroes walk away, giving the boys space. They walk over to a gravestone, one with a plot below that Izuku knows has never been filled before this past week. One whose body was never there, and whose replacement is a poor substitute for the woman long departed. I miss her, Izuku whispers, and Hitoshi nods beside him. The violet boy may have never met her, but the few stories Izuku can remember were enough to motivate him, enough for him to long for her kindness as much as Izuku did. For so long, I thought she was the only one who would ever want me as the child.
I did too,
Hitoshi admits, and then adds.
But we were wrong.
They were wrong. Wrong about so much stuff. But they were still wanted. They still are wanted. And that's enough for them.
Are you ready to go home?
Hitoshi asks, when they stared at the headstone for what feels like mere moments, but was truthfully much, much longer. And Izuku takes a deep breath, and takes one last look, reading the headstone for the first time since he's looked at it. Inko Midoriya, a loving mother, taken from the world far too soon. Below the statement is her date of birth and death, but Izuku doesn't need to read that part to know what it says. He knows that fact far too well. He always has. He spent too long chasing dreams that weren't meant to be, and is finally opening his eyes to a reality that he will make his own, one where he will make up for his mistakes. Izuku closes his eyes and pictures the body only a few feet away. A metal body lays within its coffin, positioned peacefully with jointed fingers clasped together and eyelids shuttered closed forever. It rests within its grave, having never woken up, and never will. Beyond the grave, Izuku steps back, moving to take Hitoshi's hand with his own, moving away, and finally, moving on. The robot body lays still, having never served its purpose, yet fulfilling one all the same.
Young Midoriya!
All Might calls out, and Izuku freezes automatically, eyes flicking up to meet the sharp blue ones of the symbol of peace. He feels guilty, like he shouldn't be here, even though he's only at UA right now because his dads don't want to leave him and Hitoshi on their own anymore.
Will you come with me for a moment?
Of course, Izuku says immediately, because he could never say no to one of his heroes. He follows silently, letting All Might lead the conversation. But the number one hero does not, instead allowing the quiet to surround them. Izuku doesn't know what All Might wants to say when he asks Izuku to follow him. Perhaps he's going to yell at him for being foolish, for teaming up with Sensei of all possible villains. Maybe he's going to say that Izuku shouldn't be in UA. And that will hurt. Izuku won't lie, because All Might has always been one of Izuku's favorite heroes, and likely always will be. But it's nothing like Izuku could ever imagine what All Might says, because instead of berating him, or being disappointed, even changing his mind and turning his back on Izuku, instead, All Might opens his mouth and asks a single question.
Have you ever heard of a quirk called One for All?
And Izuku's story continues. Oh my gosh, we're done with Vigilante and the Vigilante Antics. It's done. And the last bit implies Izuku gets one for all. Oh, this last chapter was so good. It was so cute. And I'm kind of... I don't know what to say, really. But anyways, guys, that was the last chapter of Vigilante and the Vigilante Antics. And I see you all next time. Bye!